Council meeting on this very cold night of January 18th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council President Miller?
Present.
Councilor Anderbaugh? Councilwoman Anthony?
Present.
Councilman Espinal? Senior Deputy Majority Leader Gonsalves?
Present.
Councilwoman Graves? Deputy Majority Leader Harris?
Present.
Councilwoman Peterson? Council President Pro Tempore Pichardo?
Present.
Councilor Royas?
On time and present.
Councilwoman Ryan?
Present.
Majority Whip Sanchez?
Present.
Majority Leader Taylor?
Present.
Councilwoman Ana Vargas? Councilman Oscar Vargas? You have 15 present, no absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The invocation tonight will be given by Councilor Sue Anderbaugh. Will everyone please rise?
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. In lieu of a prayer, I wanted to read a quote from, recognizing that this is Martin Luther King Jr. Week, and we celebrated his birth this past Monday. I wanted to read an excerpt from his speech, I've Been to the Mountaintop, and here it goes. All we say to America is, be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges, because they hadn't committed themselves to that. But somewhere I've read about freedom of assembly, and somewhere I've read about freedom of speech, and somewhere I've read about the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest for right. I just wanted us to think about that and take that to heart as we do our work here in the chamber and in our communities, the things that we've committed to in our charter, in our state constitution, and in our U.S. Constitution, the rights that we've all committed to as elected officials, and really hold them dear in our hearts as we go about our work. So thank you all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led tonight by Chairwoman Helen Anthony.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read item 3.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 3 and move approval.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the matter passes. Madam Clerk, item 4.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of items 4 through 10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on items 4 through 10? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please note items 4 and 5 as received. 6 through 9 refer to the Committee on Finance, and item 10 as received.
So noted.
And item 11.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of items 11 through 16.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on items 11 through 16?
Council President.
Counselor.
I would love to speak on, rise today to speak on item 13. I just want to add that I'm introducing this amendment in part because, as we know right now, we are staring down a housing crisis and time is of the essence. But today we could take a small but meaningful step towards addressing this housing crisis by amending the original ordinance that's before you that was established, that established the Housing Trust Fund in 2021, funded by a $24 million bond. This current ordinance, as it's written right now, specifies that funds from the Housing Trust Fund must go towards supporting the construction, the development, or financing of affordable housing for families earning less than 120% of the area median income. Nonetheless, I believe it was a misjudgment to set the threshold at 120% AMI when it was initially introduced and passed. This became apparent when just 2 years ago, funds from the Housing Trust Fund were funneled under the guise of 120% AMI to the developer of the Superman building, along with a 30-year tax break. $10 million intended for the city's lowest income residents, and an additional $5 million from the city budget earmarked for luxury apartments within the Superman building. Notably, 29 apartments from this project were allocated to individuals who could afford 120% of AMI, requiring an income of over $80,000 per year, which is beyond the means of the average resident in our city. This raised the question of whether the units genuinely qualified as affordable housing, and the answer we know today is no. As long as we maintain 120% AMI threshold in the Housing Trust Fund ordinance, we will continue subsidizing wealthy renters in our city. The proposed amendment seeks to rectify this oversight by aligning our local ordinance with state law, which defines true affordable housing as 80% AMI or below, rather than the previously stated 120%. By making this adjustment, we strengthen our commitment to addressing this housing crisis with a specific focus on providing affordable housing opportunities to those who need it the most, which is our lowest income residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on items 11 through 16? Hearing none. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Ryan.
Thank you. I rise to clarify some of the comments that were made. First of all, the Affordable Housing Trust was created in 2006 by this council body, and it was hard fought for. A lot of community activists worked very diligently with Rhode Island Housing and legislators up on the Hill. And we created, this body created the Affordable Trust Fund. It was funded back then with transfer tax at a very low amount. So years and years had gone by, hobbled by, and it was a very small pocket of funds. Thereby, the intention of the Affordable Housing Trust was to provide stimulus or to stimulate affordable housing development. It just never had enough money to do anything. In 2020, I believe it was 2020, this council, I actually was the lead sponsor on capitalizing that Affordable Housing Trust Fund. At that point, if we can all remember back when bond rates were at 2%, we rushed to try to borrow. We had borrowing ability at that point in time, and we were able to borrow at very low interest rates. Plus, because of our bond rating being, or our fiscal condition being so stable at that point in time, through the hard work, diligent work of the Finance Committee and the administration, finance team, we were able to get premium bond funding on that. So we basically capitalized that bond. The language in the bond references 120% of AMI, which currently is $104,000 is the area median income. HUD's definition of affordable housing has area median incomes or up to 140% of AMI. 120 basically gives, we thought that was a reasonable amount. It wasn't the high end, but also that is what when the Affordable Housing Trust was created, that's the number that was cited, because that is an affordable housing amount. And the issue is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was capitalized because we needed an instrument that was not tied up, had too many strings to it, to be able to say, we kept hearing developer after developer come into us and saying, you know, that they can get HUD 223 money, they can get VASH money, they can get all these other HUD pockets of funds that, by the way, have AMIs tied to that from up to 140% AMI, but they need a source of funds that's less restrictive. And the council recognized that, and we wanted to utilize the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in that fashion, to be able to put together deals that were very appealing to the council that wouldn't ordinarily go through had it not been for this pool of funds. I looked at a report last week, I think, from our planning director, and the Affordable Housing Trust that this council body passed and capitalized created 639 units or homes for individuals and families. And that is just what that pocket of funds did. That brought in or leveraged a whole host of additional dollars that we wouldn't have gotten to create housing if we didn't have this pool of funds. So it leverages dollars, and I looked to see the break between 80 and 120, and there was 130 out of that 639-ish, and I'm sorry, I'm not, but it's 130-ish, 137, 139 that were between 80% and 120 AMI. I argue those are 120 houses that people are living in today. They're feeding their families. They've got a nice, safe house over their head. If we have issues with a development, we should work on that development. We should look at the terms of that development. This is an instrument that basically leverages the production and leverages and brings more money into the city of Providence, brings more money to bear. So I am opposed to restricting it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further discussion on items 11 through 16? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed?
I oppose item 13.
We're just on the motion to waive the reading still.
Okay.
Thank you,
fine.
Councilwoman. Any abstentions? All right. Councilwoman, are you withdrawing your opposition on the motion? Okay. So the motion passes. Item 11, refer to the Committee on Finance. 12 and 13 to the Committee on Ordinance. 14 through 16, refer to the Committee on Finance.
So noted.
And Madam Clerk, please read item 17.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 17 and withdraw.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item 18, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 18, substitute, and lay on the table.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. I believe everyone has the substitution here on the table. Any discussion on item 18? Councilwoman Anderbaugh.
Thank you so much, Council President. I just want to let everyone know, Dr. Fleming is really excited to come celebrate with us all, but she let me know earlier today she couldn't make it today, so we'll be celebrating with her in 2 weeks. So that is the only reason we're laying that on the table.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Further discussion on item 18? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, item 18 passes. Item 19, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of items 19 and 20 and pass on a voice vote.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on items 19 and 20? Councilman Gonsalves.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to speak on item 20 and 21. Should I take those separately? Or?
Tape them separately, please.
Okay,
We're on item
great.
19
so
and 20.
For item number 19, obviously we know Providence is home to a rich array of historic properties that reflect our long and diverse history. And recently there was a demolition of 3 historic homes in the College Hill neighborhood. Many housing units lost to my council colleague's point. And these homes were built in 1839, 1895, and also 1857, respectively. And there were no future plans in place, and so the loss of these historic homes represents an irreplaceable loss to the city of Providence's architectural but also cultural legacy. Providence has a housing crisis, and I want to affirm what Councilor Royce just said. And we need to build more housing. We have a lot of surface level parking lots. We can afford more density in places like downtown and the Jewelry District all across our city. And growth in density and sustainable development can be achieved while also integrating historic preservation into city planning thereby balancing growth with the protection of our historic vibrancy. So this resolution calls on the City Council to condemn the recent demolition of historic homes here, especially with no plans in place before our planning department, and recognizes the detrimental impact these actions have on historic preservation in our city. It also calls for the City Council to work collaboratively with the Planning Department, the Department of Inspections and Standards, in the Historic District Commission to strengthen, enforce, and think about looking at regulations pertaining to protecting our historic housing stock in the city, especially if there are no plans in place for future development. So I think that this is a step in the right direction, and I want to thank my colleagues for their support this evening.
Thank you, Councilman. Further discussion on items 19 and 20? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motions pass. Madam Clerk, item 21, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 21, substitute, amend the heading to read Rhode Island Public Transit Authority, and pass on a voice vote as amended.
Second, Madam President, as amended.
We have a motion and a second. Comments on item 21. Councilman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam President. When I was in middle school at Providence Public Schools, my mom didn't have a car, so I did what a lot of Providence Public School students do. I took the city bus, RIPTA, to Kennedy Plaza, then I went to school for years, and I did that every single day for years. The fact of the matter is, people rely on public transportation, whether it's to go to school, to go to work, to go to a doctor's appointment. Young people, seniors, people with disabilities, people who may not be able to afford a car, or people who just choose to ride public transportation as a means of getting around. We should be making public transportation easier, not harder, for people. And unfortunately, there's a lot of disdain out there for people who are just trying to earn a living wage, quote-unquote poor people riding the bus. And that disdain, in my opinion, is despicable and totally unwarranted. Think about it. Right outside of our window tonight, there are people who are literally waiting in the cold for the bus because they need the bus. They rely on the bus to get to home from work or to go to school. And no one should be looking down on public transportation. In fact, we should be uplifting public transportation, making it easier for people to get around our city and our state. More routes, not less routes. More drivers, not less drivers. More funding, not less funding. So today I stand before you to address a critical issue in our state, which is the future of RIPTA and the urgent need for additional $110 million for our Rhode Island Public Transit Authority in RIPTA. So this resolution calls on our great state leaders to lead, hopefully with empathy and compassion, to fund transportation, $40 million to maintain existing bus services, $24 million to enhance efforts to recruit and train bus operators who are largely retiring. Approximately over 125 of the 400 bus operators are eligible for retirement next year, and recruitment efforts have been hindered by non-competitive wages in comparison to our local neighbors. $46 million towards implementing a transit master plan, which also includes meeting the state's legally mandated Act on Climate goals. By not doing this, we really risk not only falling behind on our public transportation goals, that people, particularly people who really need public transportation, but also we risk falling behind on meeting the emissions reductions goals set by the Act on Climate. So I ask for your support in urging our General Assembly to secure an additional $110 million in funding for RIPTA. This funding is important for the people of our city particularly. It's important for public transportation. It's an investment in our economy, our environment, and most importantly, our community. So the time to act is now, and I hope we can come together to ensure a robust, efficient, and sustainable public transportation system exists for Rhode Islanders and residents here in the city of Providence. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to rise in strong support of this resolution and commend my colleague, John, for introducing it. I know a lot of people try to stay in their own lanes, but when it comes to RIPTA, that's something that all of us should be paying close attention to. Like my colleague said, it's something that a lot of people in our communities depend. And like you said, RIPTA is facing a little bit of a financial question. Cliff, I think, is the word being used right now. So like you said, I just want us all to pay attention to try to advocate for our communities. It's something that's impacting. There's a lot of conversations happening. There was a meeting today with RIPTA and DOT about the future of Kennedy Plaza. So I just want to urge everyone that there's a lot happening and we need to be paying attention on behalf of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on item 21.
Madam President,
Councilor Royce.
I just want to echo and thank the councilor for introducing this resolution. Just briefly, I echo what both councilors have said about RIPTA. I too, as a student, took Uncle RIPTA, as I affectionately refer to it. My mother takes RIPTA right now to get to places throughout the city. There's been a lot of rhetoric coming from the ivory towers of the State House suggesting that folks who reside at Crossroads are the only population that takes RIPTA, and that's obviously couldn't be further from the truth. So I just want to say this is a really important issue. I hope state leaders do the right thing and fully fund and expand public transportation in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on item 21? Councilwoman Vargas.
Only a recommendation. The 14, the Rita number 14, you go to Newport and you have a very good time.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Further discussion on item 21? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes as amended. Item 22, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 22.
Second, Madam President.
I pass on a voice vote. Sorry.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on item 22? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Item 23, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 23, pass on a voice vote, and refer back to the Board of Contract and Supply.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on item 23? All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Please refer item 23 back to the Board of Contract and Supply. Item 24, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of items 24 through 26.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Sorry, Madam Clerk.
Motion to waive the reading of item 24 through 26 and receive and approve. I didn't say that? Oh, I'm sorry.
We have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Chairwoman Anthony.
I would just like to stand and say we had, thank you all for quite long, quite thorough. The quality candidates was excellent, I have to say. Task before them, so I just wanted to say counselors who attended.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Further discussion on items 24 through 26? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Note 24, 25, and 26 as receive and approve. Item 27, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of items 27 through 36.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on items 27 through 36? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Madam Clerk, please note item 27, refer to the Committee on Ordinances, 28 to claims and pending suits, 29 through 36, note as received.
So noted.
And Madam Clerk, please read item 37.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 37 and pass on a voice vote.
Second, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on item 37? Councilman Gonsalves.
Madam President, I just want to acknowledge someone who's here who has been so instrumental in this process to advocate for RIPTA. It's Liza Birkin from the Providence Streets Coalition, so I just wanted to acknowledge her. I think she came in after I started speaking, so I just wanted to acknowledge her. So thank you.
Councilman. Thank you, Liza, for joining us tonight. And as always, any members of the public who join us. Further discussion, item 37. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Madam Clerk, item 38, please.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
motion to waive the reading of item 38 and pass on a unanimous rising vote.
Second, Madam President.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes.
Madam President,
Majority Leader Taylor.
if there's no further business tonight, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Reverend Leslie Papp Sr. and Irene A. Lazzarecci.
Second, Madam President.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.